Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Happy Halloween, or if you don't celebrate Halloween, happy last day of October. And I want to talk about the scariest thing for me today, and it is the upcoming elections. It terrifies me, but not really, because I have faith, and I think that everything ultimately is going to be okay. But I don't think it's going to be pretty. No matter who is elected, I don't think it's going to be pretty. And I think that we're in biblical times. I think that the second coming is really soon. And I think that what's been going on probably ever since Trump became president the first time, I think that it's all been part of this timeline for the last days. So what I want to do is just point out a few things to think about. The significance of Trump, or the seeming significance of Trump. And by the way, this is not a political, it's not like me trying to persuade you either way, because I mean, you should follow the spirit and do what you think is right. So this is not like trying to persuade you one way or the other, but we're mostly going to focus on Trump, for good or for bad. So just don't worry about it. Just put that to the side for a second. Okay. My channel's not like that. Okay. So let's go back to November 7th of 2022. It was election day in the United States, not for the presidency, but for like Congress and stuff like that. And on that day, 2 years ago, the United States experienced its first ever election day blood moon. So this was the most recent national elections before this year and this year's presidential elections. Okay. And there was a blood moon preceding this. So like I've said time and time again, it's probably not a good sign. Something called a blood moon, when the moon turns to blood on an election day before the presidential elections of 2024, probably not a good thing. So with that in mind, I was on TikTok. Oh, you guys, I was on TikTok because I have a TikTok account for my channel. Please follow me there. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook. All the above. And, I came across this, and unfortunately, I don't think that this is satire. I say to you, brethren, God is sending the most powerful angel of all to save your souls. Maybe it is satire. I have no idea what this is, but okay. So I'm just going to tell you straight up. I am going to vote for Trump. That's me. If you vote for Harris, then, or Kamala, whatever. Yeah, Kamala Harris, then that's fine. I don't think any less of you. But I don't like this type of thing either way. It doesn't matter for what politician, where we do this type of thing. And I think that some people, they really view Trump in this way, that he's kind of like this like savior, and he's been called by God, and yes, the Lord is in control of this world, and his hand is in things as he prepares for the second coming. So, but like, to portray him like this, I probably wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I think there's a lot of flaws in Trump, like spiritual, like not good things. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of speak out a little bit against this type of thing. Please don't set any politician up on this high of a pedestal where you view them as an angel. Okay. I'm looking for the political kingdom of Jesus Christ when he returns. That's what I'm looking for. And if Trump or Harris are good for the nation and the world, then so be it. And if they're bad, it's okay, because Christ's kingdom is going to be installed very soon. Okay, but let's talk about Trump. Now, this is kind of a well-known thing. It was talked about a lot, I think, back in 2016, 2017, that you had Trump, right? And a lot of Christians outside of our church, with their YouTube channels about the second coming, they would point to the fact that his name is Trump. It makes you think of the Bible. It makes you think of trumpets. And we're going to revisit just really quick the story of Israel possessing the promised land. I've said before, but in case you're new, I feel like this story is a foreshadowing of the second coming and the millennium, where the promised land is the millennium and Israel wandering in the wilderness for 40 years is like this 6,000 year period before the millennium. And in the story of Jericho, what happened was they were supposed to walk around the city once for each day, for 7 days. But on the seventh day, they were supposed to walk around the city seven times. And you had these 7 priests with 7 trumpets. This is the first time in scripture that you see 7 trumpets. In this case, they're shofars, ram's horns. And what I believe, this is my own opinion, I haven't seen anybody else have this interpretation, and I could be wrong, but I feel like those first 6 days represent the 6,000 years before the millennium, in how whatever dispensation it is, you have the righteous that are blowing the trumpet and calling the righteous to the Lord and calling on the world to repent. But then on the 7th day, especially at the beginning of that day, the beginning of the millennium, the opening of the 7th seal, if you will, it's the winding up scene. And right now, we have the technology to take the gospel to the world like it has never been taken to the world before. It's going all over, whether it's because of planes and automobiles or whatever, or whether it's because of the internet. It is going all over in a way that it never has before. And so what happened was, early on the 7th day, they did what they were supposed to do. They walked around Jericho, which I think is symbolic of the world. So you have Israel, and then you have Jericho, the world, and the walls fell. And then they took the city, and then they burned the city, just like the world is going to be burned at the time of the second coming. And then they possessed Jericho. They went on and conquered the rest of the promised land. Okay, so trumpets. The first time that you see 7 trumpets being blown by the priests. Now, I'm not saying that trump is like a holy person or tool or anything like that, but I think that the Lord speaks to all of us in a way that we can understand. And there's a lot of people whose ears perked up when they heard that we had a president whose last name is Trump. Okay. Here's a visual, of Jericho. Here's the priests, the 7 priests with the shofars, the trumpets, going around Jericho. And then a lot of, I saw a lot of people around that time taking it a step further and being like, you have Trump and you have Pence. If you put that together like it's one word, it sounds like trumpets. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like trumpets. You may think it's silly, but the Lord can communicate in any number of ways. And it feels like this is one way that he's primed at least many Christians that were looking at it this way. And I don't think they're wrong, So let's move on. So this is May 23rd, 2017. So this was President Trump's first year as president of the United States. Interestingly, just like President Nelson, he went to Jerusalem in his first year as president. That's what President Nelson did too. He took, at the time, Elder Holland, and they went to Jerusalem. Well, Trump did it too for his first year. And according to this article, this is the first sitting U.S. president to ever visit the Kotel, or the Western Wall, which I think is significant. I really do. Okay. And then shortly after that, August 21st, 2017, President Monson's 90th birthday in 21, which is 3 sevens, we had the Great American Eclipse. And again, this is President Trump's first year as president of the United States. And here's the eclipse right here. Here's the path of totality, starting in Oregon, then Idaho, Wyoming, and it went over Missouri. And you guys, I know about the Salems. I know. I'm much more interested in this. You notice how if this if this path right here, if it was to be shifted even just a little bit north or a little bit south, it would have missed all three of these significant sites: Independence, Missouri, Far West, and Adamondayaman. So that's what I'm interested in when it comes to that eclipse. I think the Salems are interesting, but I think that this eclipse is specifically for our church. This was Trump's first year as president. Fast forward to October 2023, and there was a annular solar eclipse. Let's see, turn on the temples. There was an annular solar eclipse in the path of annularity, went over Utah. Never mind this one right here. This is the Manti, Utah temple. At the time that this occurred, it was still under renovation. It was not in operation. It missed all the temples. Look at all the temples in Utah. Look at all of them. Down here in the southwest corner, you have all these in northern Utah. The Ephraim, Utah temple is not constructed yet. It went over it went through the state in the one place that it could to miss all these temples, with the exception of the Monticello, Utah temple, which was actually the first temple in this series of like mini temples that were constructed under President Hinckley. Okay. This was 7 days after the war started in Israel, 14 days after General Conference. So I feel like another church specific sign in eclipse. And then we had the one that happened this year. And this one went over, as they pointed out in this recent youth devotional, it went over the Sacred Grove. And it also went over the Kirtland Temple that had just been purchased the month before. So these three eclipses, I feel like they are signs for our church. And this series of eclipses started in President Trump's first year as president of the church. Or he's not the president of the church, Jared. President of the United States. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's his destiny. Okay, so, and I'm also aware of the Aleph and then the future eclipses that are going to go over the Red Sea that look like the Tav. So it's like Alpha and Omega. I'm aware, but I'm not focusing on that right now. Okay, and I'm aware of the Little Egypt. I'm aware of the Ninevehs. I'm more focused on what applies specifically to our church, because that's what really matters, I think. Okay, so going back here, excuse me. Next up, 2018. Now, 2018 was President Nelson's first year as president of the church, and President Trump's second year as president of the United States. In that year, he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and that was a really big deal for many of the Jews and for the Israelis. The United States was the first country to do so. I need to double check and see if anybody else has announced that they're going to move their embassy to Jerusalem, but the last time I updated this spreadsheet, this is what we had. And so Trump moved the embassy to the United States on a symbolic day. I have this other spreadsheet. So this one is U.S. embassies in Jerusalem, and then this spreadsheet is signs Jewish specific. You can access my spreadsheets anytime. The link is in the description box of each video. So I have a lot of what I feel like are signs for the Jews to prepare them for the second coming. But one that I didn't have on here until I made this video was this one, the relocation of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And the significant day, it was Israel's Independence Day on our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, May 14th. And I didn't make this connection until I made this video. So that is Israel's Independence Day, May 14th. And I realized that the next day is the anniversary of the restoration of the Aaronic priesthood, May 15th of 1829. And that's really interesting because the Jews believe that they have the Aaronic priesthood today. They have the Levites, right? But within the tribe of Levi, you have the descendants of Aaron, and they are the priests. They're the Kohanim is what they're called in Hebrew, the Kohanim. And so it's interesting that Israel's Independence Day is on May 14th, and the anniversary of the restoration of the Aaronic priesthood is the next day. And this year, in 2024, I don't have it pulled up, but there was a 20-day tornado streak in the United States, and it started in the Salt Lake Valley. Just look it up. Look up. There's a CNN article that talks about that. It started in Utah. Just do like tornado streak 2024 Utah. So you have this 20-day tornado streak started in Utah, and then the streak ended. And the day that it paused was on this day, May 15th of 2024. And then after that, it kind of continued, but it didn't go for like another 20 days, but there was still like a tornado outbreak going on. Okay. So, let's continue on. So Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem was a big deal for them, because they felt like on the world stage, it more like legitimized Jerusalem as being the capital of Israel, which is what they're trying to do. Of course, that's in dispute with the Palestinians, but it was such a big deal that they decided to like make this commemorative coin of Trump and Cyrus. Cyrus was the Persian that allowed the Jews to return and rebuild Jerusalem and return to the land. And so they were looking at Trump in a way as like a modern day Cyrus. And then on the back of the coin, they have the temple. Okay. Also, it's really interesting because Trump, now I know that there are other U.S. presidents that have met with church leaders, but this was December 2017. Trump visited Welfare Square, which is in Salt Lake, and look who he's meeting with. There's President Nelson, at the time president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, and then President Eyring, and then you have Bishop Cassé, I think is his name, and then Senator Orrin Hatch, and then I'm not sure who that is. Yeah, Bishop Gerald Cassé, Sister Jean B. Bingham, right here, the Relief Society General President. It doesn't give his name, so I don't know. But anyway, just take a look at these pictures really quick. So think about the fact that you have President Nelson and everything that we've seen with President Nelson, and he's meeting with Donald Trump when he was president of the United States, and could be possibly the soon to be president again. I guess we'll see. Okay. Let's see. It's kind of wild thinking about Trump visiting Welfare Square with like the Bishop's storehouse. Well, yeah, at this part, he's in the Bishop's storehouse, and then he has the shopping cart. President Nelson. Let's see, I think there's a couple more. Sorry. That is so wild. I'll just say we used to be on Bishop's storehouse when I was growing up, so I actually have kind of like fond memories of going there. It kind of warms my heart to think about it. And then they presented him with a Christus statue, like a little statuette. So I didn't know that until I prepared for this video. There's Barack Obama. Okay. I didn't look at the rest of these pictures. There's Thomas S. Monson meeting with George Bush. Then George Bush Sr. That's a great picture. I think something happened there. JFK. Oh, cool. President David O. McKay and John F. Kennedy. President Hinckley and Reagan. And then also President Monson. Sorry, I didn't look at these pictures. And then President George Albert Smith with Harry S. Truman. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad that came up. Now, I looked, and I don't know, or I haven't seen that church leadership has met with Biden during the time that Biden has been president of the United States. So Sorry for the siren in the background. It's noon. It happens every now and again in my videos. Okay. So this is in 2016. So at this time he was vice president, but he met with Elder D. Todd Christofferson and Elder Ronald A. Rasband. So they met with him back then. But I searched, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. But it doesn't seem that since he became president that the church has met with him. There is this. December 14th, 2020, church leaders congratulate President-elect Joe Biden. And then they put out this statement. So I don't know if there's like anything that we should make out of that. But whatever the case, what's interesting is, and only time's going to tell, but President Nelson, I don't know how much more time he has, right? And so the last president that he met in person was Trump. And so I don't know. I just feel like there's something going on there. There's like a type of parallel or connection, like what we were talking about earlier. They both went to Jerusalem when they became the president, in the case of Trump, of the United States, President Nelson, the president of the church. You have this eclipse that seemed to correspond with the beginning of their presidencies. I don't know. And then the whole thing with Trump, and it feels very biblical. It makes you think of the book of Revelation, or maybe Doctrine and Covenants 88, where you have the two other sets of 7 trumpets. And President Nelson has been all about the second coming. So it just interesting stuff to note for right now. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, those are kind of like a few of the things. There's probably so much more I could have touched on, but I want to now focus on these upcoming elections and the warning. Okay. So again, we had this blood moon in the last national elections, and now President Nelson, April 2023 General Conference, he gave this talk called Peacemakers Needed. And let me just read a little excerpt from this. He says, vulgarity, fault-finding, and evil speaking of others are all too common. Too many pundits, politicians, entertainers, and other influencers throw insults constantly, which of course would include pretty much any politician, include those that are currently running. We live in a fallen world, and it doesn't make it right. But I'm greatly concerned that so many people seem to believe that it is completely acceptable to condemn, malign, and vilify anyone who does not agree with them. Many seem eager to damage another's reputation with pathetic and pithy barbs. Anger never persuades. Hostility builds no one. Contention never leads to inspired solutions. Regrettably, we sometimes see contentious behavior even within our own ranks. So he's giving us a warning the year before these presidential elections. And then in the October 2024 issue of the Liahona, I feel like there was an even bigger warning that we need to be a Zion people. There's this article by President Nelson called A Pattern for Unity in Jesus Christ. And I already did a video about this, but it is just full of what we need to do to be a Zion people. And a lot of it has to do with being united and not being divided, and treating each other with love and respect. And so I feel like right now this is a big test. I've said this before on the channel. I feel like 2016, 2020, and now 2024. Well, but with those first 2 elections, if you failed the test of civility and kindness and trying to find common ground, then pass the test this time, now that you've had 2 times to practice it. Pass the test this time, because when the Savior comes, he needs to recognize us as his. And if we're not united, if we're these like chaotic elements in society that are causing strife and contention, and we're arguing with people and entering into these mindless debates that just go on forever and ever, and nobody yields, then I don't know that he's going to recognize you as his, because that's not his way. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. It is a little nerve-wracking, but we know that these things are supposed to happen, and we know that Christ is coming soon. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.